Hey, this is Jizzy Pearl of Love Hate and a lot of other bands. And you're listening to 80s Picture House live.
Hello and welcome to episode 80 of the 80s Picture House and the 25th of our In Conversation With series. I'm Dave, and as always, I'm joined by my fellow co host Thom.
Hello.
And today we're back into our favourite genre of music as we chat with singer, songwriter, and author Jizzy Pearl. Hello.
Hey guys, how are you?
Oh, we're good, thanks. How are you?
Good, good. Other than the minor mishap of trying to reconnect the computer.
People will never know what's just happened us trying to connect the call.
If I only had an opposable thumb, I could do all this stuff.
Oh, well, thanks for joining us tonight.
Hey,
Myself and Thom were really looking forward to seeing you next month because you're coming across to the UK.
yeah, it's a few weeks away.
It is, yeah. We'll get heavily into that as we get on with this chat. But first of all, um, I want to know what got you into music in the first place. What got you started? Being into music, and why did you pick being a vocalist as opposed to any instrument?
Well, I, just the natural talent of being able to sing before you knew how to be a singer, quote unquote. That's what kind of got me into it. And obviously, I grew up with all the bands, Led Zeppelin and The Who, and you wanted to be like them and have what they had and bang all the chicks they banged.
So you were singing from an early age. Was this something that you did at home, like as a kid?
Oh yeah, I drove my parents crazy.
Did you? Yeah. What was it singing along to, like the LPs that they were playing?
Well, they just, my parents were not supportive, so they kind of looked at it as something that I would, some sort of phase that I would get over, someday. But then they realized that I wanted to do it for real, and
And then
finally it happened. So that was good.
was it because of your early influences of what you were listening to that got you into the rock music then?
It's just what obviously we all grew up with, that same music of the '70s, and of course it was awesome stuff.
Oh yeah. And then as we get into the 80s, Dataclan. How did Dataclan come to be formed?
Well, I joined those guys in 1985. For those that are uninitiated, Dataclan used to be the band that Love Hate was before I joined, and then when I joined, and it was a whole different vibe. It was drum machines. It was kind of dance music. It was a bunch of 20-year-olds just kind of not really knowing where their direction was yet. I mean, we all go through that as musicians. I think we all kind of trying to figure ourselves out. And so, yeah, the music was kind of silly. I mean, looking back on it 30 years later.
And then what prompted the change then from that type of music into the rock music? Was it a full group decision, or was anybody in the band against it?
No, it's like I said, it's just a natural progression. You hear when we heard that Love record by the Cult, I'd say that was one of the major influences on our career at that time. Career. We didn't have a career. We were broke. Um, and that record was just so amazing, and it. Of course, you're influenced by that, and of course, you want to, emulate that. And then the whole Sunset Strip thing exploded, and we kind of had our toes in the water. We started to play the Whiskey and Gazari. Some of these clubs have closed down, and it's just you start to be influenced by what's around you.
Yeah, and you mentioned the whiskey then. I mean, that celebrated its 50th anniversary just last month. And I mean, the whiskey in the 80s has almost got some sort of mythical status over here in the UK. What was it like playing there back in the 80s?
Uh, Well, it does have a mythic quality, and it's really the only club that's left on the Sunset Strip. I mean, there used to be a bunch of them, but they've all closed down, or they've gone corporate, or they've gone into hip hop or some nonsense. So it really, the whiskey is the only one that's left, and of course, you know, growing up, this is the place where Jim Morrison threw up. This is the over here. This is the place where Jim Morrison threw up, and you know, so I wanted to be like Jim Morrison.
So was it as wild as we imagine it to be?
Uh, you know, I talk about it sometimes, and I do wax nostalgic about the late '80s and that whole Sunset Strip. Before the city of West Hollywood closed it down, there would be thousands of people up and down the strip, and you went out every single night, not only to see your friends' bands because there were live bands every night, but you went out to flyer and to network and to because it was a community, and people were getting record deals, and it was actually a magical time. I mean, you actually thought that it could happen,
Hmm.
and it was happening. I mean, first Guns N' Roses, obviously, and then L.A. Guns, and then over and I would just you'd see your friends' bands get signed, and then hope your number came up, and of course we all know that ours did.
Oh yeah, I mean then, like you said, you had to gig and hope for the record deal, whereas like now, I'm presuming a lot are just to get the record deals through like putting up a YouTube video.
Yeah, I honestly don't know how bands do it these days. I don't know how they make money. I don't know how they make a living or any sort of impression because on my love hate Facebook, basically I posed a question saying, let's talk about your fondest memory of the band because we've been around for a long time. And the stuff that was coming, that was being posted was these memories are just as real as they were 20 years ago,
Hmm.
and and it was really you can't help but be touched to think that your music has made such an impression, especially in the UK. I want to stress that we were very special there, and still are to some extent, even though we're all getting bigger around the waist, and music isn't our entire thing that it used to be way back when. But it's pretty amazing. And now these days, I got to tell you, I don't know. I mean, these bands are like Kleenex. They don't sell records. There's no MTV, so there's no place for you to see them. And they come and they go. And I posed this question on my site. I go, who's going to care 20 years ago? I mean, 20 years from now about Panic at the Disco or any of these bands. I just don't think that they're going to have a legacy that we had, and bands, of our time.
Yeah, I was talking about this with a friend just the other day, and he was saying, like, in 5 to 10 years, the rock music as we know it will just have disappeared because the bands would have stopped by then. And we said there's just nobody to replace them at all.
Well, it's more, and I don't blame it on the music, even though I really don't listen to the new music because I just, I'm a classic guy and I listen to classic rock, and that's what I like. Um, but I think it's just part of this internet situation that I don't know. It's made stuff so easily accessible that you don't want it as much. You don't. I mean, you don't see people waiting outside record stores like there even are record stores anymore. But you don't see people waiting outside to get a record. You don't see that enthusiasm to get the record and to hold it and to look at all the liner notes and to, you know what I mean? It was a whole different um, relationship
Hmm.
that you had with the music and the musicians, and there was mystery. You know what I mean? It's funny back in the day, around 19 before the internet, really. Um, if you were on the road, people had to write you letters. You know what I mean to get in
Yeah.
touch with you. and there was a fan club, and there was as opposed to now, basically somebody can go on a website and go, yeah, Jizzy's an asshole. I mean, I just met him 5 minutes ago.
Oh no.
So you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's just that's the way it is now, and I think that's if anything, that's what's ruined music. I think because when I was a kid, I bought my Led Zeppelin records, and my imagination was what fueled my love of the band. You know, I imagined Jimmy Page living in Aleister Crowley's house with the black magic and the all this crazy shit that probably he would laugh at.
Oh
You know,
yeah.
but that's what I imagined in my head, and it made the music so much more real to me. And when I listened to the record, I had a whole different relationship than people do now, and I think that sucks for people now, and it's sucks.
Oh, it does. And you, as a recording artist, how have you had to change during this transition, into this digital age now and the internet everywhere?
Well, I've got to realize that I'm not going to sell records anymore.
That,
That's one of my biggest things. Is I just put out this Crucified record, which I'm sure will come to at some point.
oh yeah.
And I mean, let's just say that nobody sells records anymore. You know what I mean? If Aerosmith doesn't sell records, and that's Aerosmith, then that's just the way it is now. So, as a recording artist, digital recording is awesome because you can make a record for a fraction of what you used to have to. You don't have to go to a big studio anymore. You don't have to have 2-inch tape anymore. You know, but and I said this before in another interview. Digital is good for me because I know what I'm doing, and I've spent years, crafting. Hey, my dog is barking at somebody. Um, I've spent years, perfecting what I do, but bands nowadays they record records, and they're really not records; they're demos. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When Love Hate in the '80s recorded demos, we thought they were records because we were young and we weren't ready to make a record yet. Now I know what it takes to make a record, but nowadays everybody makes CDs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, you can make a CD for next to nothing. It doesn't mean anyone's going to buy it. It's more like a vanity thing. But digital's good for guys like me in that respect that I have access to tools to make music, and it's much, much easier. But on the other hand, you don't sell records because people don't buy music anymore. So that kind of sucks.
Yeah. So it loads it up then that the money has got to be made on the tours and the merchandise now then, yeah?
Well, no, the money's got to be made from being a smart musician and saving your money.
Moving along in the timeline of things, early 1990, of course, you had your breakthrough, really, the Blackout and Red Room album. It went on to win Best Album over here from Kerrang and Metal Hammer. What was that like, that big that explosion for you?
It was, pretty awesome. It was, it was strange because Love Hate, our band, was never very super popular. I don't know why. I think it's because we were kind of intellectuals, and we were shy, and we didn't play the game. I mean, I can, people that know me know that I don't sing off the Vince Neil playbook. You know what I mean? I'm just not that kind of a party all night goofball, scarves and leg kicks and stuff like that. It's just not me. So put yourself in the place of, where Guns N' Roses is kicking ass, and where do you fit in and stuff like that. So we didn't really knew if we fit in. We just made the best music we could do and made a good record, we thought. And lo and behold, we go to England, and I'll never forget this. we were doing our first record signing, at a record store back when there were record stores. And we were in this park, and I think we were somewhere in London. I don't know. And we were totally nervous, because visions of Spinal Tap come into your head. You know what I mean? What if you had a record signing and no one showed up? I mean, it was total Artie Fufkin vibe, and we were nervous. Anyway, so this girl comes up to us at the park, and she bums a cigarette off one of the guys, and her hand is shaking, trembling. And I'm looking at this girl, and I'm thinking, God, she's a heroin addict. She's a junkie because she's shaking so bad. Well, turns out she's shaking because she's so nervous to meet us.
All right.
Yeah, the four fuck ups. And anyway, so long story short, you know how it is sometimes in these places in England where you have to go through these mazes to find these little record stores, and you turn corner after corner after corner, and so you don't really know where you are. Anyway, we walk and we turn the corner, and there's a line around the block at this record store, and I'll never forget that because I was relieved, I was shocked, and that people really dug the record. And then it kind of, I don't know, it just kind of became this thing of, you guys are big in England, and you're selling out shows, and you're playing bigger and bigger places, and you're on MTV, and it was just, our record label was happy, obviously, because we were, doing well, and we had some good people here in the UK behind us, and it was amazing. I mean, it was crazy, and then we got some crazy tours, and I mean, here I am, playing arenas in England, opening up for Skid Row, and it was a good time. It was a good time.
It's good because I mean you've supported the UK really well because you've been over here many times, haven't you, at touring, which is really good.
Yeah, a lot of bands of our, I hate to say genre, it sounds so goofy, but a lot of these LA Hollywood rock bands, they can't come over to the UK or to Europe because because it's so expensive, and B, because they were never popular enough. The trick is once you become popular, you have to keep coming back all the time. There's a loyalty factor. You have to keep coming back, even if obviously you're not making any sort of money, and it's more of a paid vacation. You still come back because that's part of the relationship, and it's kind of part of the deal that you've made with your fans is that they don't forget you and you don't forget them.
Is there anywhere in the world that you haven't played yet that you'd like to?
uh, I've been pretty much, I mean, everywhere that people play. I mean, I hear people play in India, but I can't see that happening. uh, Pretty much been everywhere. Went to Japan right before Fukushima, so that was good. They couldn't blame that on me.
You mentioned as well, you supported a lot of big bands as well. The likes of ACDC and so on. Any particular favourites with them? I mean, that must have been crazy to suddenly be on tour with these bands as well. That I presume, did you listen to like the likes of ACDC, the people that you've supported before you got into the music business?
Yeah, I'd say, I mean, I was obviously a fan of AC/DC and Ozzy more from the Sabbath years, even though I did dig the Blizzard of Oz stuff. Um, but I had more of a trippy vibe with the Dio because he was one of my idols from when I was just a kid. I mean, I had all those Rainbow records, and then when what was it, the Heaven and Hell record, the Black Sabbath record came out. I mean, that was killer. I actually, when I was a kid, I met Dio because I was rehearsing at this studio in Los Angeles, and I was just some dumb stoner kid. I was just a fucking idiot. And Black Sabbath was using one of the big rooms to record Mob Rules, and it was all hush hush. They tried to keep it hush hush, but Black Sabbath were storing some of their gear in the place. So you walk in and there's these 30-foot crucifixes. I mean, something's up. You know, I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out, either there's, some Satanists here or um, anyway, so I got to meet Ronnie then, and I must have been, I don't know, 21 or something, whenever, in the early 80s. And of course, I gave him my records to sign, and we taught him how to smoke bongs because he was a pot smoker, but he'd never used a bong before. So picture me and my brother. We didn't have a whole lot of skills at our early age, but we didn't know how to smoke pot pretty well. So we're teaching Ronnie to bong, and oh no, Ronnie, you put your finger over that hole, and now you take the whole thing, Ronnie. And it was quite a funny scene. Anyway, flash forward to 1990, we opened up for Ronnie on his Lock Up the Wolves record, and I toured with him several times after that, and he was a great guy. He was an amazing guy, and he really liked people that could play. So I think he really respected us. He didn't like, I don't want to say bands like Poison or them, they can't play, but they're not really known for their musicianship, shall we say. So he didn't like bands like that. He liked bands that could play, and he liked singers that he thought could sing. So it was honestly a very cool thing that he dug us, and I toured with him several times. I toured with him when I was in Rat as well. And yeah, it was what a tragedy.
Oh yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Definitely. And you brought, I'm sorry to ask you this, Jizzy, I know you've probably had to talk about it so many times, but for the listeners around the world that don't know about this, and you mentioned Crucifixes, I've got to bring up the 1992 incident. If you could please tell everybody the story of that.
Oh, have you got an hour?
Yeah, we have, yeah.
Yeah, okay. I'll try and do the Reader's Digest version of it. Basically, years before we got signed, we used to do photo shoots, and we did a takeoff on Abbey Road, the classic photo shoot of Abbey Road, and we tried to, because there were a million bands playing in LA at the time, and they all looked the same. They all had the black hair and the tattoos and the nose rings and the leather pants, and it was really hard to distinguish yourself, you know, in that pool of dyed black-haired assholes. And so we would always do these photo shoots. Anyway, so one day I suggested, why don't we all crucify ourselves on the Hollywood sign? Because you see it from where you are in LA. I mean, you can see it every day. It's just up there on the hill. It's this icon. And I thought, by crucifying yourself on the sign, you're sacrificing yourself. You're giving of yourself to the rock gods, up on Mount Olympus, to for the prize, for the glory, for the brass ring, and all the hammer of the gods, all the usual adjectives. And anyway, 1992 comes around, and Skid, our bass player, wanted to make this movie, and he, after discarding several different ideas for the movie, we hit on the one idea of, why don't you, Jizzy, crucify yourself on the Hollywood sign? And I said, well, why don't you do it? And he goes, well, because I have traffic warrants. So basically, I was elected to be the head cheese, and those letters are 60 feet tall, and that's no bullshit. If you actually go up and hike up to that hill, which I guess you can't anymore because of me, they have motion sensors and detectors, and because of me. And how funny is that? Anyway, so if you go up there, the letters are huge, and there's a video up on YouTube, which I'm sure you guys have probably seen.
Oh yeah.
You know, you look very small compared to there. Anyway, so we built this cross, and we built it out of a bunch of different pieces and put it together. And all the time we're building it and doing it, I have this, overriding fear of death, of falling to my death. And I said to the guys, how are we going to do this? How are we going to hang this thing up there? And how am I going to get on it? And how am I going to stay on it? And how am I going to live afterwards? And so we did a dress rehearsal. We had a 2-story building. We had a dress rehearsal, and we put the cross up and hung it off the edge of the building. And there was a rope, like a nylon rope, and Skid goes, all right, you're going to lower yourself on this rope onto the platform of the cross, and that's how you're going to get on. And I go, well, that's kind of dangerous. And so he goes, watch me do it. I'll do it first. And so he goes over the side of the building on the rope and falls.
Oh, no.
Falls, plummets, lands right on his ass. And I'm looking down at him. I'm going, well, that was, that doesn't really help me much. So what we did was we decided to get one of those chain ladders that they use for fire escapes. For you put the ladder out the window, and it has 2 little things that look like candy canes. Anyway, that's the ladder. So we did it, and it worked okay. So we said, okay, well, we'll do that. Anyway, so the night before, we put all our shit up there behind the letter H, and the next day we would assemble the cross, and we would haul it up via pulleys on ropes to attach it to the letter Y, which is the middle letter. And I would climb up this metal scaffolding and dangle myself over the edge, and we'd do this. Anyway, so we get the cross up, and we're hauling it up, and we're laughing. It's just crazy. And then I climb up with the ladder up to the letter, and dumb shit realized that if you hold the letter Y, if you picture the crook of the letter, like the V, you can't hang the ladder in that thing. You can't. It won't work. You can only put one of those little attachments into the middle of the letter. So had we done it on the letter H, it would have been easier. You know what I mean? And more stable. But we did it on the Y, and here we are doing this. Anyway, so I'm yelling. I'm going, we can't do this. We can't do this. And Joey, our drummer, was up there with me, and he goes, I'll hold the other side. You have to do it. You have to do it. And it was this peer pressure thing of, if I didn't do it after we had done all this work, I mean, I would have gone down in history as, the biggest pussy. And so I did it, and I climbed over the edge, and the ladder had been twisted because of the wind, because there was a steady wind blowing as well.
Oh, no.
And I climb over the edge, and really, if you look over the letter and you look over it, it's a cliff. I mean, you're literally over a cliff. I mean, there's no safety rope or anything. So I climb over, the ladder unkinks itself in midair, and I do a free fall of about 5 feet, and I'm screaming, swinging in the air, screaming all sorts of obscenities. And finally I relax, and I get on the ladder. I get on the cross, whatever. And then Joey and the rest of the guys run down the hill laughing. And they went to a park. Which was adjacent to this Hollywood sign thing, and they just sat and got high and drank and smoked. And I thought I'd be busted in about 20 minutes, because here I am on the biggest landmark in the city of Los Angeles. And anyway, no one noticed me for 2 hours.
Oh my God.
I'm totally not kidding. And I'm sitting up there, and birds are flying by, and it's totally quiet, and I'm swinging in the breeze. I'm just going, I can't fucking believe this. You know, I mean, what do I got to do to get arrested in this city? Anyway, 2 hours later, a helicopter comes by and finally spots me. And then obviously the shit started to hit the fan. They thought I was a suicide jumper at first, so they were really eager to get up there and get my story. And then when they realized I wasn't a suicide jumper, that I was just some rock singer trying to make his mark in the world, they were pissed. And so the cops took me to jail, and they kept me in jail for the whole day so I wouldn't get any press, obviously. And then I had to go see a police psychiatrist, and that part was kind of funny because he's talking to me. He's going, "Well, why did you do it? Why did you do it?" And I go, "Well, it was a plea to the rock gods." And the psychiatrist looks at me and he goes, "Jizzy, there are no rock gods." I mean, really? What does he know? You know? Anyway, I proved that fucker wrong, and here I am to live to tell the tale, and that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Oh, it's great. 'Cause like you said, there's the footage, there's the news footage, isn't there, on YouTube? And I'll put a link to it on the podcast notes for this episode on our website too, if people want to have a look at that. That must have been crazy for 2 hours up there to start with.
Well, yeah, I couldn't get down. I mean, that was it's funny for about 10 minutes, and then you're leaning over this precipice and looking, at death, and I couldn't even get down even if I wanted to. That was the kind of the fucked up part is that it was a total commitment.
It was.
You know what I mean? Once up, you can't come down. And I did literally have to be rescued by the fire department, and that they weren't happy about it at all. They were really pissed off, and I had to do community service. They wanted to throw the book at me initially. They literally wanted to charge me to repaint the sign, 20 grand or something, and I had to hire a lawyer. They really wanted to fuck me because they were mad, obviously, because people had fucked with the sign in the past, but no one had actually ever, hung themselves on the sign. So anyway, a lawyer got me out of that, and I had to do community service. I had to paint graffiti with a bunch of winos and bums in Los Angeles, on Skid Row, and that was kind of, I mean, that was okay because I was kind of a wino and a bum myself, so I kind of fit right in. But that was really all that there was. It has become 20 years later somewhat legendary.
Oh yeah, it's one hell of a story, that is, that's for sure. And I mean, Blackout in the Red Room was like such a huge success. It was, you came out of the gates running. What was the pressure like then to follow that? I mean, your next album was Wasted in America. Did you feel a lot more pressure doing that album than Blackout?
Um, yeah, well, I think the problem is that we, sometimes when you make a really good record, you think that you're a shoe-in to make a really good second record. You're kind of buoyant on your own ego, and the label got a little restrictive. They didn't. I don't want to say they rejected our first batch of songs, but they made us go back to the drawing board a few times, and that kind of woke us up a little bit, out of our ego haze of, we're the best thing since sliced bread. And then when Wasted in America came out, it's a good record, it is a really good record, but the problem is it's not as good a record, as Blackout.
Mm-hmm.
And our label, you're as good as your last record, so to speak, and it wasn't as focused maybe as Blackout was. I thought Blackout was the thing about Blackout that was really good was that it was from beginning to end, it had the same vibe. It sounded like the same band doing the same songs on a Saturday night. Whereas Wasted, we stretched out a little bit more musically, and our label picked the worst first song as a single. The video was called Happy Hour, and that was their choice, and we didn't want it to be the single, but some people at the label thought that it was just this, I don't know, progressive masterpiece, and it kind of tanked, you know. We wanted another song, but that was the one they picked. And when it tanked, when things tank at a record company, the band gets blamed. You know what I mean? If they make you do a video and you don't want to do the video, but you do it anyway because you want to play ball or are forced to do it, and it bombs, then it becomes your fault. So there was a lot of blame game going on when the second record came out because it wasn't doing as well, and there was some internal stuff going on with the group, some shit talking in the press, which didn't help. And anyway, you know, then they after Wasted America, it got you know, it started the downward spiral.
How much say as a band then did you have in the music videos? Did you have any sort of creative input in how you wanted to do them, or was it all the record company came up with it?
Well, what happens is that these video directors send you treatments, and it's like a script, and you know, some of them get rejected because they're just stupid. You know, a lot of the first videos treatments that got sent to us were just real typical. You know, like we were in a Whitesnake video or something. You know what I mean? With the chicks and the fan blowing the long hair and stuff like that. It was just kind of, it was just not us. You know, so you have to kind of find a guy that that you're on the same page with. The Blackout video, that guy was pretty cool, even though he did spend a lot of our money on food for himself. Um, the dope video, we had to fight a little bit to get what we wanted. This guy had a vision of, he just wanted it to be something a little bit more artistic, and we were looking for just more of a performance thing. But we did get the bagpipe player in the video. That was our idea. And you know, it's a give and take. The more records you sell, the more power you have. You know, the less records you sell, the less power you have, and the more you're basically pushed into a corner and told what to do. And so, I mean, you know, that's how it is.
I was reading your Facebook page earlier today as well, and you had a great story. I think it was the spinning wheel video, where there was you and Skid grabbed the two pillowcases and was filling them with all the stuff from catering.
Yeah, we did two versions of that spinning wheel video. We did one with Darren, who was our guitar player after John, the original guy, quit. We did the spinning wheel video, and I think it was that one, or it was the one when John came back. We did two versions of that. I really don't remember. But basically, when you do a video, they set out a catering thing, you know, beer and food and whatnot. And usually the band doesn't really eat any of the food. You know, they drink a few beers, they leave, and the crew gets to split up the spoils of what's left. And Skid and I were living together at the time in Hollywood, and you know, we said, "Fuck that," you know, that beer is good beer. You know what I mean? That's money we would spend. So we took pillowcases and, you know, dragged out all the food and the beer, and the crew were pissed. They were yelling and grumbling and mumbling and muttering and stuff. But I just thought, you know, well, fuck you. You know, we're paying for this. When you pay for a video, if it's $100,000 or $250,000 or whatever, if you're on a record label, that's money that you have to pay back. You know, that's why a lot of record a lot of bands never really made their money back. I mean, we never sold millions of records, but the record companies, they spend all your money for you. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like, we're going to make this really good video, and most musicians aren't very business savvy, so they don't realize that at the end of the day, there's a bill, and you got to pay that $100,000 back before you see any royalties. You know, or these $250,000 videos, and you got to pay for all that shit. And it ends up that bands usually don't make any money because they don't know how to save money either. And yeah, here they are in your 40s and you're flat broke. It sucks.
Hmm. You mentioned as well on that Facebook post, you say, well, you said obviously there was the two versions of the video. You said there was there's one version that's got another funny story that remains untold.
Yeah,
Is there any chance we
yeah.
could get that story out of you?
Well, it's it's it involves publicly embarrassing one of the ex-members
Ah,
had a
okay.
who had a substance abuse problem, and I mean, it's as much as I would like to, will not
That's
divulge.
fine then. No, that's fine if it's to do with that. That's quite all right.
Yeah, yeah. Let sleeping dogs lie, so to speak.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, yeah. After the Wasted America album, there was the Let's Rumble album. I'm Not Happy, Living Off Layla, and Let's Eat. But that was all she wrote for Love Hate after that. What led up to that?
Um, Basically, the band. I mean, we never really made a whole lot of money. We made some money in the beginning, and we made really good music, but sometimes really good records don't sell 15 million. Sometimes crummy records sell a lot more than really good records. That's just, the way it is sometimes. So the older we got, the the inevitable pull of wives and having kids, and people going, well, maybe the rock and roll isn't going to pay the bills forever and ever like we thought it would when we were young and in our 20s. I mean, everybody thinks that rock and roll pays the bills and that we all live in mansions and, there's a mound of cocaine on the table and stuff like that. There is a mound of cocaine on the table, by the way. But, uh, and that's what happened. It was never, it wasn't one thing really, you know, when guys tend to get, the guys in the band started getting married. And once you get married, you have to start, your priorities change. And obviously when you have kids, I mean, kids are expensive. And rock and roll didn't pay the bills the way that it did when you're single and living in a little apartment in Hollywood and banging chicks, day and night. It just, people grow up and people move on, and there was tension in the band, just like there's tension in every band. Every band will tell you that there's tension. You know, uh, and that's kind of, it was a gradual dis dissolution, and that's what happened. And I think, you know, I I think I'm the only one that sort of really stuck with it. I mean, not only with Love Hate, but with music in general. I ended up, once the Love Hate thing sort of, I think it was 1997 that it pretty much, ended officially. And I joined LA Guns, and after this disastrous, I tried to get Love Hate back together in 1998, and it was a disaster. I mean, it was a fucking disaster. It should have never happened. Um, and then I joined LA Guns, and 2 weeks later, I'm on a bus playing in front of 4 or 5 thousand people on a arena tour. That was totally amazing. I mean, talk about, pick up your troubles and get happy. it was awesome. And so and I've been able to work consistently, since then in different bands. People say, well, why don't you do Love Hate all the time? Well, because I can't, because there's no money in it, people.
Hmm.
That's all.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't mean that I don't love the music any less. It's just you know, Rat paid the bills, 15 million records versus what Love Hate did. Now it's Quiet Riot, Quiet Riot, Metal Health, 10 million records. I mean, you can't fuck with that.
Oh God, no. And what are the pressures like? Because you joined L.A.Guns and then you went to Rat and you were with Rat for 6 years, weren't you? 2000 till 2006. I mean, you must get the fans that will embrace you. Yeah, the band's still going. Thanks, Jizzy. And then you'll get the arseholes that won't give you the time of day because you're not the original singer. How do you deal with that?
Mm, well, you develop good peripheral vision when the bottles start coming up on stage. When I first joined, it was kind of, you ever seen that movie, The Matrix?
Oh yeah, yeah.
I was I was Neo for about the first 2 or 3 months, and not because the band was trying to do anything wrong. It's just these promoters would put up posters with Rat circa 1984 with all the original members, and nobody was going,
Oh God.
where's Robin? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They were kind of contributing because they knew that that's what would sell tickets, and some people would embrace it and some people wouldn't. I mean, that's just the way it is. But the bottom line is, in any band that I play in, I do the best I can. You know what I mean? I don't come up there and take it. You know, I totally take it seriously. And Rat, Rally Guns, or any band I'm in, I
Mhm.
take it seriously. And so you just do the best you can. And I think the internet is this forum where people are just sometimes shitty for shitty's sake. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just, oh, you should give it up. Well, I don't want to give it up. I don't want to work a day job, dude. I love what I do. And so, fuck you. How's that?
And then you released a couple of solo albums in 2005 and 7, Vegas Must Die and Just a Boy. Um, what was it like making those to be, it's your solo album rather than with a band now? Everything's on solely on you, isn't it?
It's, it's really awesome in some respects because, the ultimate control, you get to have a song that you envisioned in your head and you can tell people what to play and what to do and how to do it. And
Hmm.
so you get this picture that you've had in your head, you get to paint it, and you get, pretty close to what you had in your head. I mean, there's some songs off some of those records that that I think I couldn't best today. I mean, if I was to go back and re-record, so that's really awesome. But on the other hand, you got to pay for the whole thing, and you got to pay other people. And if it sucks, you're the guy that people point at saying it stinks.
Hmm.
So it's good for a guy like me. The Crucified record. Um, I got a really good deal at my friend's studio here in Vegas, and I got to just play mandolin and do all these kind of trippy things, a lot of which didn't make the record, but you get to experiment and you get, this musical atmosphere where you have a million instruments. It's pretty fucking cool to be able to do that and have all this, you know, production behind you. But, at the end of the day, someone hands you that bill, you got to pay it too. So I mean,
Yeah.
it's cool.
In 2007, the original lineup of Love Hate reunited for the first time in 10 years, playing Blackout in its entirety. So, considering the efforts you tried back in '98, how did it all happen? How did it all come together?
Um, I quit Rat in 2006 because I just got tired of hearing about Steven coming back. He's coming back. And I just thought to myself, well, you know what? If you want him, you can have him. So I just left. And I hadn't talked to some of the Love Hate guys in a long, long time. And I just thought, let's maybe we can try doing this reunion thing. It's been a long time. And I had to kind of get these guys back to reality a little bit. Some of the guys were going, well, we only want to play sold out places and this and that. And I just go, well, it's not like that anymore. I had to bring them into reality. But I did get a couple of good gigs, and we got together, and it was fun, for a while. And then we tried to do a UK tour, and one of the guys couldn't go because of legal issues. And so I brought Skid and Joey and Darren to England, but they had to bring their wives with them because that was the way they had to travel in 2007, and it turned into a fucking nightmare. After 2 shows, basically, I thought we were going to have to go home, and it was just, it was people that were on the road that shouldn't be on the road in 2007. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just wasn't, they weren't the same guys that they were in 1992 and 1993 and 1994. These guys were road dogs. These guys could go out, and it was rock and roll, and it was a whole, flash forward, here are guys that haven't been on the road in over a decade, and they weren't the same guys, and putting the square peg in the round hole, and it ended up at the end, everyone kind of blaming me. Well, you fucked it up, Jizz. And I just go, okay, and that's kind of how it ended. And some of the guys don't speak to me anymore since 2007, and it's just kind of weird and kind of a bummer. But
Yeah.
what are you gonna do? You know what I mean? I mean, just it is what it is, and that was the last time that we all played together, and I definitely can tell you it would be the last time that all of us will play together. I mean, Skid left his wife, and they're divorced, and he lives in the Philippines, of all places. I mean, the Philippines.
Whoa.
He's on a deserted island with Gilligan and the skipper, and yeah, and Joey doesn't talk to me, and it's kind of dysfunctional. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So for all the people that go on Facebook and ask me every day when are the originals going to get back together, I guess the short answer is never.
Yeah. It must be frustrating when a lot of it, is out of your control as well.
Yeah. Well, people want what they want. And that's really the real answer, is that when people go on Facebook, there's this immediacy of Facebook that I can ask Jizzy any question I want. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How old are you, dude? You know, you know what I mean? Was your wife, was your ex-wife really a bitch? You know what I mean? This weird, it gets so personal sometimes that people ask you these intrusive questions, and because they want to know, and they're fans, and they want to know what's going on. They want to know why Skid isn't in the band anymore, and they want to know why you guys don't play together anymore. I mean, I get it, but can you imagine asking Led Zeppelin, you know what I mean? Jimmy, did you really steal all those songs? I mean, really, dude? You didn't write Babe, I'm Gonna Leave You? I mean, he'd say, well, he'd delete you. That's what he'd do.
Yeah, let's go on to your UK tour, your upcoming UK tour, which is, as we talk now, it's just mere weeks away. And I know, Tom, you're hoping to go to the gig in Norwich, and we're definitely going to the gig at the Tivoli in Buckley.
Yeah,
Uh,
I've got the dates. Did you want me to
yeah, yeah, if you could read
reel
out
them
all the
off?
dates, yeah, because let's get people getting the tickets so we can meet them at the
God,
gigs too, and then they can go and see Jizzy.
Yeah, there's plenty of dates, so plenty of opportunities. First is the 6th of March at the Waterfront in Norwich, which I will be at with my mate Andrew for his birthday. Then the 7th of March at Diamond Rock Club in Belfast. The 8th, Moorings Bar in Aberdeen. The 9th, Fibbers in York. The 11th and 12th at Bannerman's in Edinburgh. The 13th at the Think Tank in Newcastle. The 14th at the Vault in Rugby. The 15th at Diamond in Sutton. The 17th at the Underworld in London. The 19th, Slade Rooms in Wolverhampton. The 20th at Ebbvale Institute in South Wales. The 21st at the Tiv in Buckley. And also an appearance at Hard Rock Hell on the 22nd. So plenty of opportunities.
And of course, the gig in London on the 17th, it's your birthday as well, isn't it, Jizzy?
Yes, I'll be 26.
All presents gratefully accepted on that night?
Well, 26 in dog years.
And I mean, this tour is Jizzy Pearl's Love Hate, and you've said that's it. Then the name is going. This is the end, isn't it?
Well, yeah, kind of a bittersweet thing. I mean, the closer I get to actually, it's one thing to say it, on and it's another thing quite entirely to be at the tour and have people come up to you and go, "Is it really the last time?" and blah blah blah. I mean, obviously, there's been some drama going on in the last month or two as regards this Crucified record and ex-members, lashing out, so to speak. So I just decided to end it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
When it ceases to be fun for me, because it's really about fun and relationships with people in the UK, and it's not some big money making thing. So when it ceases to be fun, then I just gotta say, you know what, I'm gonna hit the hammer on the head.
Yeah, because you've got it's a 6-track mini album, isn't it? Crucified, that you've got out at the moment.
Yes, yes.
And good it is too. I had a spin of it today and really enjoyed it. Have you got any more plans? I mean, I know we'll go into, because you're working with Quiet Riot now, and you're gonna. Am I right in saying you're recording an album with Quiet Riot this year?
I already did record it. It's
It's
done.
recorded. It's
Yeah,
coming out. It's coming out this year.
yeah,
So if
yeah.
you've got any,
It's been a pretty busy few months over here at
oh, I
so
should think
it's going
so.
out.
When can we expect to hear the album then? When's it due out?
Um, I want to say probably a month or two. I mean, everything Quiet Riot is all questions are sort of Frankie Benali questions. So
Hmm.
my role in the band is pretty clearly defined. You know what I'm saying? So, but when I did join the band, they had a record and they asked me to sing on it, and I learned a bunch of songs and sang on it, and it came out great. And yeah, it should be out soon, hopefully.
So hopefully we might see you with Quiet Riot in the UK. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, I hope. I mean, it's there's always hope.
Yeah. And what about you with more solo albums? Are you still going to record those?
I don't know. I don't know. I think the only way that I would record another record is if I actually purchased my own recording equipment and Pro Tools and whatnot and did it here at the house. That would be the only way for me to do it and make it cost efficient for me. You know what I mean? Since
Yeah.
people don't buy music anymore, I, I wouldn't lose my shirt. You know what I mean? If I put out a record that I sort of did myself.
Yeah. You'll continue to songwrite though, will you? I presume.
Yeah, I mean, that was probably the most fun part about doing this Crucified record was that it had been a long break since I had done any writing. I mean, I wrote some with Tracy and L.A.Guns, but actual my preferred method of songwriting is to just sit there in my little Unabomber shack with one guitar and a recording unit and just kind of go into a trance, so to speak, and that was fun for me because obviously the end result, a lot of these songs well, most of them, but there's some really good songs on this record, and I'm quite proud of them.
And where's for everybody that's listening to this now? Where's the best place that they can find and follow you online?
The Facebook is the way to go. Twitter to me, I'm just not really a big fan. I don't. I guess some people really love it, but it's just I don't know. I'm on it, but I'm not really on it. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? So the Facebook, and that's probably the best. There's a love hate Facebook. There's a several. There's a few Jizzy Pearl Facebooks, and there's a few Jizzy Pearl imposter Facebooks. So I guess you're gonna have to use your discretion and find the real Jizzy. So
Well, listen, Jizzy, it's been so good to chat to you, and both myself and Tom, we can't wait to see you live over here in a few weeks.
yeah, 3 weeks away. It's gonna be a great tour. I urge all the UK punters to come out. Like I said, we'll shed a tear and drink a beer and raise our glasses to the legacy of the love hates, and it'll be a good time.
Well, of course, we'll put all the dates up on our website, so if anybody visits there, all the dates will be on there. Buy your tickets, and of course, yeah, go and see you live. I mean, hopefully, we'll get to have a beer with you too while you're over here.
Yeah, sounds good.
Excellent. Well, thanks again, Jizzy. We've loved it, and well, we'll see you in a few weeks.
Okay, man.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right,
Thanks,
bye
Jesse.
bye.
Bye
Bye.
bye.
Oh, Dave, another great interview there.
Yeah, yeah. Great guy, isn't he?
Oh, superb. Yeah, brilliant. I cannot wait to see him live twice.
Twice. I know you're going to see them. You're going to see them. I think it's Norwich is the first date of the tour,
Yeah, it
and
is. And
bar in the Hard Rock Hell Festival.
yeah, of course.
The tip is the last date of the
Oh,
tour.
look at that. Look at that.
You're going to really bookend the whole tour, mate.
Yeah, yeah, that'll be excellent. That'll be excellent. So, cannot wait for that tour. Get your tickets. Get your tickets.
Get your tickets,
Last
definitely.
chance. Last chance to see Love Hate.
Yeah, you got to get them. I was looking at the T-shirts that were up on sale as well.
Yeah, I saw them. Yeah,
Very nice. I'm just hoping there's some left by the time it gets to the last date of the TIV. I may be asking you to pick me one up from Norwich, mate.
may have to. You'll come ready.
I will do, yes. So yeah, as I mentioned there, all the dates for the tour will be up on the podcast notes for the website, of which Tom will give you the details in a minute. I'll put up the link to Jizzy's Facebook page, the correct one, of course, seeing as there's quite a few imposters out there. And yeah, like his Facebook page, and as Tom said, buy your tickets for the tour. So Tom, how can people find us online?
Yep, our website is www.80spicturehouse.co.uk. Our Twitter is at 80s Picture House. Our Facebook is facebook.com/80s Picture House. Our email is contact@80spicturehouse.co.uk. And alternatively, there's a contact us form at the top of our website. We're on Instagram, we're on Reddit, we're on Pinterest. Search the 80s Picture House.
Right, that's that's the end of our 25th in conversation with mate. 25 have gone.
Yep, that has gone. And well, I should mention if you want to leave us an iTunes review, please do so. That'd be gratefully received.
It certainly would. It
But
certainly
yeah, 25 interviews. Can you believe it?
would. I
80
know.
episodes, 25 interviews.
It's really good and a good one for our 25th.
Oh, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah. Right, well, it just remains to be said thank you to Jizzy for joining us today. Thank you for listening to us. Check out everything we do through the links that Tom gives to you, and we'll see you very soon with another episode.